So I wanted to show you how I would edit still life image that was captured with one light in a studio setting. So this is not a situation where I was having to deal with ambient light. This was 100% of the light was coming from my flash. I edit in Lightroom and I edit with a Wacom tablet. I stay out of Photoshop as much as I'm able because I really dislike the whole editing process. I try to get everything as close to perfect as I can in camera. Now, that being said, you can probably tell that this image is majorly underexposed. I tend to underexpose all my images because I find it easier to go ahead and up the exposure and still retain all of the details and the highlights by underexposing, where if I had overexposed the image, I might lose some of the details and the highlights, and then I just can't get those back. So I underexpose and I shoot for my highlights so that they always have plenty of detail for me to use. So the first thing I would do is raise my exposure. Generally, when I underexpose, I need to bring it up to between 130 and 190. I'd probably have it about right there. Let me just quickly pull it up all the way so that you guys can see where I had the modifier. It's a little bit more than a 45-degree angle. It was more in front because I wanted to get some light in this back edge of this tulip. I would want to crop, of course. And like I said, I really don't like Photoshop. I don't like editing. So if I can crop out the light, then I am pretty happy to use whatever crop I have to in order to get rid of the light. You can see there's still a little corner. So I'm just gonna go on up and use my clone tool to get rid of that. Now let me bring this back down to about 180. So the next thing I would do is lift the shadows a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up shadows to about right there. That way I can start to see the detail back here on the wall, and I can see some of the detail in here. Sometimes, depending on how much I want to be done, I might save this and share it straight to Instagram, but often I'll go in and I'll dodge and burn. When I dodge and burn, I generally take my exposure brush all the way down or all the way up just so I can see what parts I am touching. So I'm gonna zoom in. I'm pretty sloppy. I'm just gonna go in and get the major parts that I want shadows in. You can see I'm not being careful at all. I really try to get the bottom of the shadows, anything that's going to kind of show the detailing. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up to probably there-ish. And now for my highlights, I want to be a little bit more careful because I really just want it on certain areas. Let me bring that up so I can see what I'm doing. So I just pick and choose where I want it. I want to show the folds, but I also want to be careful that I'm not getting rid of any detail. Not trying to be perfect. I'm going to take this back down and now I'm going to lower to about 0.80. So I'm actually pretty happy with that, and go ahead and darken this down here with a gradient tool. There we go. All right, the last thing that I might do is go down a little bit of an S curve. I should have done this in the beginning. I just forgot. And kind of pop up the contrast a little. And then I often get rid of pinks and turn them red. And same with my purples. I usually take them up to the red, but in this case, I do have this blue that I don't want to change too much. So I'm going to leave this down here. I really want to be careful with my reds and my oranges that they're not overly saturated. And then generally I do take the yellows and bring down the saturation. This table that I use for everything is very yellow and orange, and I don't really love it. So that's one of the reasons I take the saturation down. So honestly, that's probably what I would do. I might go in here and take care of these little things if I can do it in Lightroom. But like I said earlier, if I have to do anything like take it into Photoshop, I generally don't unless I'm planning on printing an image. And this I'm not going to print, so I wouldn't worry about it. You know, this might be something I share on IG, and this would be good enough for me. Okay, so this is an example of how I might edit a one light still life image in a studio setting.